I was 30,000 feet over Indiana when my phone lit up with three words that changed everything. Access denied. The foundation I'd spent 22 years building was cracking beneath me, and I didn't even know it yet. My name's Warren Sheffield. I'm 49 years old, and up until that moment, I was the project director at Pearson Family Construction. We'd been building America's infrastructure for 3 generations, bridges, highways, the kind of work that keeps this country moving. Old Adelaide Pearson's grandfather started the company in 1952 with a handshake and a promise to build things that would outlast the men who made them. Her late husband expanded it through the 60s and 70s, and Adelaide herself had been running operations since he passed 15 years ago. I was flying from Chicago to Washington, D.C. to sign the biggest contract in company history, a $400 million government deal to rebuild the Interstate 74 bridge system after the flooding last spring. The whole Midwest had gotten hammered, record rainfall that turned creeks into rivers and rivers into something you'd see in a disaster movie. When the water finally receded, half the bridges between Illinois and Indiana looked like they'd been hit with a sledgehammer. I'd cultivated this relationship with the Department of Transportation for 14 months. Not through emails or PowerPoint presentations, but the old-fashioned way, face-to-face meetings, job site visits proving we could deliver when it mattered. I'd driven down to Tennessee to tour their hurricane recovery projects, spent weekends walking damaged bridge sites with duty engineers, answering every technical question they could throw at me. This wasn't just another contract, it was survival. 800 union jobs hung in the balance, and Adelaide was counting on me to bring it home. The flight attendant was making her rounds, checking seat belts for descent into Reagan National. Standard Tuesday afternoon flight, business travelers heading home, a few tourists with their cameras out trying to catch a glimpse of the Washington Monument. I pulled out my phone to review the final specs one more time, a habit I developed from my Marines days. Always check your gear before the mission. That's when I saw it, that gray box where my company portal should have been. I stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds before my brain caught up. The Pearson Construction logo that usually appeared when I logged in was gone, replaced by a sterile message. Access denied. Contact system administrator. My first thought was IT problems. We'd been having issues with the server farm ever since Damian Pearson, Adelaide's nephew, and our newly appointed CEO decided we needed to modernize our digital infrastructure. That was corporate speak for firing our longtime IT guy and outsourcing everything to some company in India. I tried my password again, typing each character carefully. Same result, then I tried the backup system we used for government contracts. Nothing. My chest tightened like someone was cranking down a C-clamp. In construction, when your access gets cut, it means one thing: you're out. But that was impossible. Tomorrow's meeting had been on the calendar for 6 weeks. Adelaide herself had wished me luck this morning, telling me how proud her husband would have been to see the company land its biggest contract ever. The email came through my personal account 2 minutes later. Subject line: termination of employment, Warren Sheffield. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at the sender. Damian Pearson, not HR, not Adelaide. The 29-year-old nephew with an MBA from Wharton and ideas about disrupting the construction industry. Damian had joined the company 18 months ago, fresh out of business school with theories about efficiency optimization and streamlined operations. He'd never swung a hammer or spent a day on a job site, but he had charts and graphs showing how we could cut costs by 30% through strategic restructuring. Adelaide had made him CEO 6 months ago, hoping young blood would help the company adapt to changing times. What she got was a kid who thought construction was just another business that could be automated and optimized. When I finally opened the email, the message was cold as January concrete. Effective immediately, your services are no longer required. The board has voted to restructure operations in alignment with modern efficiency standards. This decision reflects the company's commitment to sustainable growth and competitive positioning. Your company devices will be remotely wiped within the hour. Do not contact any government officials, subcontractors, or clients regarding ongoing projects. A severance package is contingent upon your compliance with the attached non-disclosure agreement. Modern efficiency standards, sustainable growth, competitive positioning, that was Damian's language, business school buzzwords that meant nothing to the guys who actually built things. What he was really saying was that he planned to gut the workforce, replace skilled union labor with whatever cheap alternative he could find, and collect the profit margin. I adjusted my hard hat, well, the beat-up Cubs cap I wore when I wasn't on site, old habit from Afghanistan. When incoming rounds start flying, you check your gear first, then you figure out where the threat's coming from. The plane banked toward the runway, and through the window, I could see the Potomac River bridges we'd helped maintain over the years. Solid work. built to last. My crew had replaced the expansion joints on the Memorial Bridge just 2 summers ago, working nights to keep traffic flowing during the day. Good men, most of them second or third generation union guys who took pride in their craft. Damien had timed this perfectly. He knew I was trapped in this metal tube for 3 hours, unable to call anyone, unable to fight back. He probably figured I'd land, pack my tools, and disappear into early retirement like a good soldier. Take my pension and keep my mouth shut about whatever he was planning. He was wrong. I pulled out my personal laptop, a beat-up Lenovo I used for side projects and keeping track of my son's college expenses. It had one thing Damien hadn't counted on: a local copy of every project file I'd worked on backed up every Friday night for the past 5 years. When you've been in construction long enough, you learn that systems fail and people disappoint you, but hard drives don't lie. I connected to the plane's Wi-Fi, expensive as hell, but worth every penny for what I was about to do. First, I checked the passenger manifest for today's flights to DC. I had a contact at United from my days handling logistics for military transport contracts, favors you call in when you really need them. There it was. Flight UA 432 departed 2 hours before mine, seat 3B D Pearson. So the little prince was already on the ground, probably rehearsing his presentation for tomorrow's meeting with some PowerPoint slides about optimization and scalability. That's when it hit me. If Damien had fired me, he wasn't just clearing the deck. He wanted the credit for landing this contract himself, the golden boy who'd saved the family business from the old-school project manager who was holding them back. He'd waltz into that duty conference room tomorrow morning, sign the papers, and spend the next 6 months explaining to Adelaide why everything went to hell. I opened my project files and found what I was looking for: the original bid specifications for the I-74 contract. The version I'd worked on for 14 months, negotiating every detail with dote engineers who'd been building government projects since before Damien was born. These guys knew the difference between cutting-edge efficiency and cutting dangerous corners. Then I logged into the federal contracting portal, my personal access, not the company account, and downloaded the current version of the bid specs. The differences hit me like a load of rebar falling off a truck. Section 7.3 labor requirements. The original read: all work shall be performed by certified union contractors with appropriate apprenticeship programs and documented safety training records. Damien's version: all work shall be performed by qualified contractors meeting minimum federal standards. Translation: he was planning to use non-union crews at half the wages with minimal safety training. Section 12.1 material sourcing. We'd negotiated steel components must be manufactured in the United States per Buy American Act provisions, with mill certifications and independent quality verification. Damien had changed this to steel components must meet ASTM international standards with appropriate documentation. Translation: cheap Chinese steel that met the bare minimum requirements on paper but wouldn't hold up to a real load test. Section 15.4 safety protocols. The original required daily safety briefings for all crew chiefs with documentation submitted to federal oversight. Weekly safety audits by certified inspectors, and immediate work stoppage authority for any team member observing unsafe conditions. Damien's version: safety compliance per OSHA minimum standards with monthly reporting to federal oversight. Translation: cut corners, hope nothing goes wrong, and if someone gets hurt, make sure the paperwork covers your ass. I felt something I hadn't felt since Afghanistan, that cold calculation that comes when someone's trying to get your people killed, because that's exactly what this was. Damien wasn't just stealing the contract or trying to boost his profit margins. He was setting up a disaster that would destroy Pearson Construction's reputation forever and probably get good men hurt in the process. The flooding had weakened the soil conditions along the entire I-74 corridor. You couldn't just throw up some quick fixes and hope for the best. These bridges needed to be built right the first time, with proper materials and crews who knew what they were doing. One structural failure, one bridge collapse, and every newspaper in the country would be running headlines about government contractors cutting corners with taxpayer money. I pulled up my contact list and found Floyd Morrison's number. Morrison Construction had been our biggest competitor for 30 years, but we were the kind of competitors who respected each other. When the floods hit last spring, Morrison crews worked alongside ours to clear debris and get the highways open for emergency vehicles. That's how you do business in this industry. You compete like hell for contracts, but when people need help, you help. Floyd answered on the second ring. Warren Sheffield, aren't you supposed to be signing the big contract tomorrow? That's what I'm calling about, Floyd. How fast can you put together a counterbid proposal? There was a long pause. In the background, I could hear the sounds of a construction office, phones ringing, radios crackling, the steady hum of men and women who actually knew how to build things. Counterbid, Warren, what the hell's going on? That contract was locked up tighter than Fort Knox. Damian Pearson just fired me via email while I'm at 35,000 feet. He's planning to gut the I-74 project, non-union crews, foreign steel, minimal safety oversight. It's going to be a disaster. And when it falls apart, it'll take down every legitimate contractor who's ever worked a government job. Floyd was quiet for a long moment. I could practically hear his mind working through the implications. Morrison Construction had built its reputation on solid work and treating employees right. They couldn't afford to let some entitled kid destroy the industry's credibility. "Send me what you've got," Floyd finally said. "If that boy's planning to ruin the reputation of American construction, I'll stop him. But Warren, you know this means you're burning bridges with the Pearson family. Adelaide's been good to you. Adelaide doesn't know what her nephew's planning," I said. "And when she finds out, she's going to need someone who can clean up the mess." My second call was to Inspector General Hayes at the Department of Transportation. Hayes was a Marine. Like me, we'd served in different units, but we'd crossed paths at enough veteran events to have mutual respect. More importantly, he understood that when you give your word on a construction project, lives depend on you keeping it. "Inspector General Hayes, this is Warren Sheffield from Pearson Construction. I need to report potential bid manipulation on the I-74 contract." "Sheffield, aren't you the point man on that project? What kind of manipulation are we talking about?" "Not anymore," I said. "I've got documentation that shows the bid specifications were altered after the initial submission. Material requirements downgraded, safety protocols reduced, labor standards compromised. I'm sending you a comparison file right now." Hayes was all business. "I'll review it immediately. If there's fraud involved, we'll shut this down faster than you can say court-martial. Send me everything you've got." I attached the files and hit send, then sat back in my seat as the plane continued its descent. Below us, the suburbs of Northern Virginia spread out like a circuit board. Neat subdivisions and shopping centers built by contractors who understood that reputation was everything in this business. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Damian's number kept showing up, but I let it ring, let him sweat. The first text message was simple. "Warren, call me immediately. There's been a misunderstanding." The second came 5 minutes later. "The doubt is asking questions about bid modifications. We need to talk." The third made me smile. "I can fix this. Come back." We'll say it was a system error. By the time we touched down at Reagan National, Floyd Morrison had texted me. "Proposal submitted. Dot wants to meet with both companies tomorrow at 800. You're on my team as senior consultant. Don't let me down, Marine." I climbed into a cab and gave the driver the address for the Marriott near the Dote building. Tomorrow's meeting was in 16 hours, and I had work to do. The hotel room was standard government contractor territory, clean but worn, the kind of place where you could spread out project drawings on the desk and not worry about leaving coffee rings. I ordered room service and spent the evening going through every detail of the I-74 project, preparing for what was essentially going to be a court-martial. At 2,200 hours, my phone rang. Adelaide Pearson's name showed up on the display. "Warren, I just got off the phone with Damian. He says you've been terminated for insubordination and that you're trying to sabotage tomorrow's contract signing. I need you to explain what's happening." Adelaide's voice carried the weight of 74 years and 3 decades of running a construction company. She'd buried her husband, survived 2 recessions, and kept Pearson Construction afloat through the lean years when bigger companies were folding left and right. She deserved the truth. "Mrs. Pearson, your nephew fired me this afternoon while I was on the plane to D.C. Then he modified our bid specifications to cut costs in ways that will get people killed. I've reported the bid manipulation to the Inspector General, and Morrison Construction is submitting a counter-proposal." There was a long silence. "Warren, you've been like family to us since Jack died. If you're telling me that Damian has compromised our integrity, I need proof. Check your email. I'm sending you the side-by-side comparison right now." I heard her breathing change as she reviewed the documents. Adelaide had been reading construction contracts since before I was born. She knew exactly what those changes meant. "Sweet Jesus," she whispered. "He's trying to build these bridges with Chinese steel and non-union crews. Warren, if one of these structures fails, it'll destroy everything your husband and grandfather built. I finished. And that's just the business side. People could die. What do you need from me? Stay out of it until tomorrow's meeting is over. If this goes the way I think it will, Damian's going to be facing federal charges. You'll need to distance the company from his decisions." The next morning, I walked into conference room 302 at the Department of Transportation, wearing my best suit. Not expensive, but clean and pressed. The kind you wear when you're representing American workers. Floyd was already there, along with Inspector General Hayes and 2 DOT engineers I'd worked with on the original specs. At the far end of the table sat Damian Pearson, looking like he'd spent the night in his clothes. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Next to him was a lawyer who kept checking his phone and whispering urgent advice that Damien seemed too rattled to absorb. Hayes opened the meeting with military precision. "Gentlemen, we've reviewed the bid documentation submitted yesterday by Pearson Construction. It appears there are significant discrepancies from the specifications that were negotiated and agreed upon over the past 14 months. Damien shifted in his chair, trying to summon his MBA confidence. Those were efficiency improvements, updated standards based on current industry best practices. Updated by whom? Hayes asked, his voice carrying the kind of authority that made colonels nervous. Mr. Sheffield here was the designated point of contact for this project. According to our records, these changes were made without duty approval and after the submission deadline. Hayes slid a thick folder across the table. Furthermore, our investigation has revealed that the modified specifications fail to meet federal requirements for seismic stability, load capacity, and worker safety standards. The use of foreign steel in critical load-bearing applications violates Buy American provisions. The reduction in safety protocols falls below OSHA minimums for federal construction projects. That's when I stood up. Inspector General Hayes, may I address the committee? Hayes nodded. The floor is yours, Mr. Sheffield. I looked directly at Damien, then turned to address the room. 22 years ago, Adelaide Pearson hired me right out of the Corps. I'd just finished my second tour in Afghanistan, and I needed work. She didn't just give me a job, she gave me a chance to build something that mattered. Bridges that would last generations. Roads that would keep families safe. I pulled out my folder. What Mr. Pearson submitted yesterday isn't a construction proposal, it's a recipe for disaster. Non-union crews with minimal training working on complex structural projects. Foreign steel that meets paper specifications but hasn't been tested under real load conditions. Safety protocols that exist in the contract but not on the job site. Damien started to protest, but Hayes held up a hand that could have stopped traffic. Furthermore, I continued, Morrison Construction and I are prepared to complete this project with full union labor, American steel, and safety protocols that exceed federal requirements. For the same price as the original bid, the room went dead quiet. You could hear the air conditioning humming and someone's pen clicking nervously. Hayes looked at Damien with the kind of expression that had probably terrified junior officers for the past 25 years. Mr. Pearson, pending investigation of these bid irregularities and potential federal violations, the Department of Transportation is suspending Pearson Construction from federal contracting effective immediately. Damien's face went white. You can't do that. We've been building for the government for 70 years. My great-grandfather, your great-grandfather built for the government, Hayes interrupted. Your grandfather built for the government. Your family built for the government with honor and integrity. You tried to defraud the government. Hayes turned to Floyd Morrison. Morrison Construction, in partnership with Mr. Sheffield as project director, you are awarded the I-74 bridge reconstruction contract. Congratulations, gentlemen. As we filed out of the conference room, Damien caught up with me in the hallway. His lawyer was trailing behind, probably calculating billable hours for damage control. Warren, you've destroyed us. The family business is finished. Adelaide trusted you, and you stabbed us in the back. I stopped and turned around. No, son. I saved it. Your grandmother is going to need someone to run operations while the lawyers sort out this mess. Someone who knows how to build things the right way. Damien's lawyer stepped forward. Mr. Sheffield, my client was attempting to modernize outdated practices. Your client was cutting corners that would have gotten people killed. I said, and when the first bridge collapsed, every construction worker in America would have paid the price and lost trust in tighter regulations. 3 days later, Adelaide Pearson called me into her office. The federal investigation was moving fast. Hayes had found evidence of similar bid manipulations on 2 other government contracts Damien had submitted. The FBI had seized the company's financial records and discovered that Damien had been skimming money to cover gambling debts he'd hidden from the family. Warren, the board has voted unanimously. We want you as CEO of Pearson Construction, effective immediately. I looked out the window at our equipment yard, excavators, and dump trucks that had built half the infrastructure in the Chicago metro area. Good machines operated by good people who took pride in their work. What about Damien? Adelaide's expression was granite. Damien is no longer a member of this family or this company. The lawyers are working on a plea deal that will keep him out of federal prison if he cooperates fully with the investigation. And Morrison Construction? Floyd Morrison is an honorable man. We're forming a partnership, Pearson Morrison Construction. He keeps his crews and his contracts, we keep ours, and together we build the I-74 bridges the right way. 6 months later, I was standing on the first completed span of the new I-74 bridge system watching our crews install the final deck sections. American steel, union labor, safety protocols that went beyond anything the government required. The structure would be rated for 100 years of service, built to withstand floods, earthquakes, and whatever else Mother Nature could throw at it. My son Danny had driven down from college to see the bridge. He'd always thought construction was blue-collar work beneath his engineering degree ambitions, but watching our crews coordinate the placement of a 200-ton girder with millimeter precision had changed his perspective. "Dad, how do you coordinate all these moving parts? The timing has to be perfect, same way we did it in Afghanistan," I said. "You train your people right, you give them the tools they need, and you trust them to do their jobs. When everyone knows their role and takes pride in the work, things just flow." Danny nodded, watching the crane operator guide the steel beam into position with movements so smooth it looked like a dance. "Think there's a place for me here after graduation. There's always a place for someone who wants to build things that last." That evening, I drove past the old Pearson construction yard. Morrison had bought the property and most of the equipment, but he'd kept the Pearson name on the sign. Some traditions were worth preserving. Adelaide was in her 80s now, officially retired but still showing up most mornings to drink coffee with the crew chiefs and review project schedules. Damien had pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges and was serving 18 months in minimum security prison. Last I heard, he was teaching business classes to other inmates, hopefully explaining why cutting corners isn't actually good business. The I-74 bridges were completed on time and under budget. 0 accidents, 0 safety violations, 0 compromise on materials or workmanship. The kind of project that builds reputations instead of destroying them. Sometimes when I drive over those bridges, I think about that moment at 30,000 feet when my phone lit up with access denied. For about 10 minutes, I thought my career was over. But foundations are funny things. Sometimes they have to be tested before you realize how strong they really are underneath. The construction industry is full of people trying to optimize and disrupt and modernize their way to bigger profit margins. But at the end of the day, bridges either stand up or they don't. Buildings either keep people safe or they don't. There's no app or algorithm that can replace skilled workers who take pride in their craft. And sometimes the best way to honor the builders who came before us is to make sure their standards don't get compromised by people who've never held a hammer. Listen, I know there's a lot of noise these days about how experience doesn't matter anymore, how technology is going to replace everything, how the old ways of doing business are obsolete. Maybe that's true in some industries. But when you're building something that people's lives depend on, experience isn't just valuable, it's essential. The bridge you drive over this morning was designed by someone who understands that cutting corners isn't efficiency, it's negligence. It was built by workers who know that their reputation goes home with them every night. When the storm comes, and it always comes, you want infrastructure that was built right the first time by people who gave a damn. That's not old-fashioned thinking. That's survival.
Don't pity me. My heart doesn't need your mercy. I can still stand on my own. I was broken by your leaving, fell deeper than I thought I would. But pain has taught me how to heal now and survive what once I couldn't. You don't have to look back sadly, don't reach out with guilty hands. What you shattered made me stronger. Now I rise where I once collapsed. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. I once begged for your affection, now I've learned my worth in scars. And the man you left in pieces found his own way through the dark. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. So keep your sympathy behind you. I don't need what's left undone. Sometimes losing who once broke you is how healing has begun. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow. I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling. I'll rise alone again. I'll rise alone again.
They say just forget. Move on like it's easy. But forgetting you feels like remembering someone I've never seen. I've been trying to erase you from the places in my mind, but the harder that I fight it, the more you're hard to leave behind. Every memory keeps slipping through the cracks I try to close, like a face I should remember, but somehow never know. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. Every moment turns to fragments, every thought just fades to blue, like I'm searching for a feeling that still only leads to you. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. If I never met you, maybe I would know just how to heal, but now every empty moment still reminds me what is real. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true.